This is lesson 44, and we'll be discussing the accent, tenuto, and marcato.
Returning to J. Albrecht's Ready to Read Music, we're on Unit 4, which is our More Musical Symbols and Terms unit, Lesson 5, Accent, Tenuto, and Marcato. This is a continuation of the discussion we started in the last lesson about articulation markings. Recall that articulation markings tell us how we should start and stop notes. This mark is called an accent. An accent means the note should be played or sung loudly. Again, I'm sorry, but I need to disagree with Mr. Albrecht here. I think the issue we're running up against is that he's possibly trying to oversimplify this. An accent is not a dynamic marking. An accent is an articulation marking, which tells us how we should start and or stop a note. An accent tells us that a note should be emphasized or stressed, or that it should have a stronger attack on it than it would ordinarily have. So an accent really means emphasis. He continues, the notes with accents should be played or sung louder than the others. Again, I'm going to disagree and say they should be played or sung with more emphasis than the others. So we see an accent marking here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Notice that the accent mark almost looks like a miniature decrescendo. This mark is called a tenuto mark. It has two meanings. A tenuto mark can mean to play a note slightly louder, but not quite as loudly as an accent. I'm going to, again, amend that, not louder, because that's a dynamic, but this should actually read, a tenuto mark can mean to play a note with slightly more emphasis, but not quite as much emphasis or attack as an accent. It can also tell the music reader to play or sing a note for its full value. And what this means is that we want to almost think of the note as being a little bit swollen or bloated or fat. If the note is allotted, say, 1 beat, so this is the duration of 1 beat, let's say, and this is the duration of the next beat, and a note is allotted 1 beat, we want it to stretch all the way from here to here if it has a tenuto marking on it. Sometimes we might even allow it to just bleed over its limits a little bit to help exaggerate the tenuto markings over these notes. They're supposed to be emphasized notes or full-length notes. We don't want to cut them short. Musical rule: accents and tenuto marks are always placed near the note head. If the stem is down, the accent or tenuto mark is above the note head. If the stem is up, the accent or tenuto mark is below the note head. So this is just like what we learned in the last lesson with staccato dots. The accent or the staccato marking or the tenuto marking will always be located close to the note head. So you won't see an accent mark below a stem. So if the stem is going up, your accent mark or tenuto mark will be below the staff near the note head. And if the stem is going down, your tenuto marking or your accent will be above the staff because it needs to be close to the note head. This mark is called marcato. It means to play a note very loudly, even louder than an accent. So again, I'm going to disagree with Mr. Albrecht here. It's not a dynamic marking. It's not saying loudly, even though it's sometimes part of the way we realize the marcato mark is, in a way, to play it loudly, but that's not really the goal of it. Marcato means literally marked, accented, or stressed. So it is like an accent mark, except even stronger. Musical rule: marcato marks are always placed above the note. It doesn't matter if the stem goes up or down, the marcato mark is always above. I have actually also seen marcato marks sometimes below the staff, like that, near the note head, just like you would do with a staccato or an accent mark. I think there are a lot of gray areas, common practice versus what is theoretically correct. look at some of the articulations in this piece of music and notice that articulations can be combined. There's quite a plethora of varied articulations in this short example, but I think he's just trying to obviously make his point. So notice that when we have accent marks or staccato marks or tenuto marks, that we always see them close to the note head, right? Close to the note head. And here's another example of a staccato mark close to the note head. Here's another example of a tenuto mark close to the note head. You can also see the fermata markings, which always happen above the staff, whether or not the stem is going up or down. And here's an example of a marcato marking. And here are some examples of where these articulation markings can be combined. For example, we can have a staccato note that's also accented or emphasized. And we can have an accented note that also is held or has a fermata on it. Which note is louder? Nope. Which note is more emphasized? So we see an accent here. We know that that means that we should emphasize or stress or have a stronger attack on that note. And then we just see a staccato marking here. All that tells us is that we should make sure that this note is detached from the one that follows it. So this will be the note that will receive more emphasis. Then we see a marcato mark over here and an accent mark over here. So remember that an accent tells us that we need to emphasize that note or stress that note or have a stronger attack on that note. But a marcato marking, this one, tells us that the note should be even more marked or accented or stressed or even have a stronger attack on it than an accent. So the note with the marcato marking on it should be the note that receives more emphasis or attack. What does each mark mean? Write the correct letter from the second column in the blank space. Loud will become emphasized and or full length. Louder will become emphasized, stressed, or attack. And loudest will become marked, accented, or stressed. So we have a marcato marking right here. And we know that that's our strongest form of accent or emphasis. So the direct translation is marked. So marked, accented, stressed. This is going to get a C. Then we see an accent. An accent means to emphasize the note or stress the note or attack the note. So this will be B. And then we see a tenuto marking. Remember that tenuto can mean that the note should be emphasized or stressed, but not quite as much as you would with an accent, and or that the note is to be played at full length, sort of a fat note or a very stretched note. So this will need an A. Place an accent on every B flat in this example. Be sure to position it correctly, either above or below the note head. So first of all, we're in treble or G clef. Remember that the treble clef has this curly Q action that reminds us that line 2 is important. If we were to put a note there, it would be a G. And from there, we can decode all the other notes on and above and below the staff. Note also that we have a key signature, and the key signature is right here in front of our time signature. And our key signature tells us that we will have a B flat, an E flat, and an A flat. Battle ends and. We have the first 3 flats in our order of flats. We can know that all the B's, E's, and A's we see on the staff are going to actually be flats. So B flat, E flat, and A flat. So let's just name our pitches here. If this is a G, then we will descend through our musical alphabet, F, E, and this first pitch will be an E flat because of the key signature. Then we climb up through the musical alphabet, F, G, A, B. This is a B flat. And we need to put an accent on that note because he asked us to put an accent on every B flat. So we're going to put that accent above the staff because it has to be close to the note head. And then we descend through the musical alphabet, a G. So this is our G. We step down to F. We step up through our musical alphabet, G, A. And this should be an A flat, but because we see this accidental in front of it, the natural sign, we know it's just a plain old A natural. And then we have another step up to B, and it's again a B flat because of the key signature, so we need an accent mark. And we'll put that above the staff so it's close to the note head, not the stem. And then we climb up through the musical alphabet, C, D, E. And we know this is an E flat and another E flat. Then we step down to a D with a staccato mark on it. And then step down to a C, another C. Then we need to climb back through our musical alphabet, B, A, G. So we have a G here. We climb up again, A, B, flat because of the key signature. So we need an accent mark here, again above the staff, so it's close to the note head. Going to the next line, we have stepped down from our B flat to our A, and it's an A flat because of the key signature. G, F. Now we step up again, G, A, B, and it's a B flat, so we need an accent. Again above the staff, close to the note head. Then we step down to an A flat and then step down to a G. We're back up again, A, B, C, C. Then we have a B, but there's a natural sign in front of it. So it's a B natural, just a plain old B. So we won't mark an accent there. Step up to a C, D, another D, and then step up to an E, but it's an E flat. Place a marcato mark over every eighth note in this example. So remember, an eighth note will be a filled-in note head with a stem and a flag or a single beam. So here's our first eighth note right here. And we'll just put a marcato mark on that. And then we need another marcato mark on this note. It's also an eighth note. And then we need a marcato mark on this eighth note and this eighth note. Moving to the next line right here, we have a single eighth note all by itself. And then we see another eighth note, so we need another marcato marking here. And then another eighth note here. And one final one right here.